Welcome to Gigs and Guitars. In this edition we're going to talk about the unsung hero of the guitar world, which is the guitar string. Guitarists and magazines, vloggers, YouTubers, Instagrammers, we talk about mainly pickups, we talk about pedals, we talk about amplification, we talk about relicking, we talk about vintage guitars, classic guitars, but we often neglect the guitar string as a topic. Several weeks ago, I was basically browsing through the internet world and I was after some replacement strings for my kit bag for gigging and home use and whatever. And I was a little bit astounded to see what the prices were in the current worldwide climate of doom that we're in terms of the economy and so on and so forth. If you're a bit like me, you've tended to stick with a particular manufacturer of guitar strings, which I did for many decades. Until I thought these were getting a little bit expensive. So I thought I'll do some research and see exactly what is out there. And I was quite astounded really. And there's some great manufacturers of guitar strings. There's loads of them, but we all seem to get stuck with one kind of brand that we're happy with. And I thought I'm going to look around, see if there's some better value out there with a different manufacturer from a different supplier and just see if I can get great quality at a great price. And I did. It's a Rotor Sound. They've been around since I think it's the 60s. They supplied guitar strings for like Jimi Hendrix, The Who, Pink Floyd, and these are Rotor Sound 10s. Now these are going to be used on my Strat style scale length guitars. And the bottom line is this box of 3 cost £15, came with a free guitar strap, and I managed to secure free postage as well. And I thought, oh, that's a no-brainer, is that? String gauge is very subjective. We're all very different. But in my world, I normally go and gig with a Stratocaster type guitar or a Gibson scale length guitar, whether it's a Firebird or a Les Paul. And I use 10s on the Fenders and I use 11s on the Gibsons. And that's purely because I want the same kind of feel from both guitars when I'm swapping between the two during a 2-hour gig. And I found that the weight of the strings it's plenty to give me enough fight to have a bit of fun with the guitar, but it's not overly tiring over a 2-hour period while I'm doing a performance. And that's why I go for 11s and 10s respectively, because that's my preference. And you're very different. You probably might want heavy gauge strings on and lighter gauge strings. The pros out there like Billy Gibbons, I'll put a little bit of a video on in a minute, but he will tell you that he used 7 gauge strings.
At that time, BB was one of the first exponents of the first wave of light gauge strings, which was .008 on the high end. I went to .007.
There's no answer. There really is no answer to guitar string gauges. We're all different. You can get hybrid sets of strings these days. We can get lighter gauges and heavy gauges mixed up into one. The strings arrived and I thought, I've got a gig coming up. The black Strat needs a bit of a string refresh. So I thought, right, let's get these Rotor Sounds on the guitar. You'll see it on the screen now. It's speeded up. So what you will see is I've masked off the guitar neck, and I've given the actual frets a little bit of a polish up. And I have to say, when I'm playing guitar live, I do sweat quite a bit, and my strings and my guitar gets a little bit grotty over a period of time. And I felt that the actual frets could have just done with a little bit of a clean up. So I masked each fret off, and I just used a little bit of metal wadding just to actually just take off the oxidization off the frets themselves. And they came up really, really nice. Now, I would suggest that periodically you might want to do that. There's some great products out there. I've seen videos where people use very fine French polishers wire wool. But for me, the metal wadding does an equally good job. But one thing you have to be mindful of is that it does have a little bit of a liquid content to it, so you just got to be careful that it doesn't sort of run too much while you're actually sort of polishing away. That's why I masked mine off, and I have to say it did a really good job. So what I found with the Roto sounds was that they were very quick in stabilising themselves into a normal state of tune, more so than previous guitar strings that I've used. And that led me to the question, do they pre-stretch their strings during the manufacturing process? Because I don't yank at my strings in terms of pulling them up and like see on videos and things, and I don't use string stretchers. I naturally like to play the guitar and let the strings relax into a normal state of tune, which can take anything up to about 15 minutes of playing, really. But I found these were very, very quick. It was literally 5 minutes of playing. I thought, wow, these are great. And I thought, I wonder if they actually pre-stretch these, but I really don't know. But let me know if you know anything different. And if you're from Rotor Sound, yeah, let me know, drop me a line. I'd like to find out. There's one thing that I've done for many, many years which prolongs the life of these strings, particularly when you're in a pub and you're actually playing. And this applies to pros as well, guys. Periodically during a gig, or indeed when you're at home, just to prolong the life of your strings, just get yourself a cloth during a gig or when you finish playing at home and just simply give your guitar a good wipe down. And I do that quite a lot, and I don't change my guitar strings for each and every gig. I change my guitar strings purely on the inspection of the condition of the strings that's on the guitar. And you can do that by running your finger underneath that thin E string all the way up. And if you can feel any oxidization or any resistance, then it's probably a good time to actually change your strings. Now, these have been on here for ages now, and I have gigged this guitar, and each one of those strings on here is absolutely fine. Here we have my Les Paul Standard Gold Top, and it's nothing special, guys. It's just an off-the-shelf guitar. It's not custom shop or anything, but I have to say it's one of the best Les Pauls I've heard, and it's one of the best Les Pauls I've ever played. Now, what I have done with this, and I would advocate this all the time. I'm just going to pop this down here so you can see. Guys, we've got a nut on here, and you can see that the strings on the actual headstock come from the nut and come outwards like that. Now, as the strings pass through the nut, that is resistance. Now, not only that, if you look at the headstock as it sort of rakes backwards, so it goes off over there, that is also resistance. Now, what we need to be doing to keep particularly guitars like Les Pauls in a better state of tune during a gig, just get some oil in there. And I use 3-in-1 oil. You can buy some elaborate stuff from all the music stores, you know, but I use 3-in-1 oil. It does a good job. Just put a little bit of a drop in each one of those nut slots. Put some tissue either side of it underneath the string so it doesn't contaminate your fretboard or the other side of your headstock. Wipe off the excess and then restring your guitar as you normally do. And that will ensure that as your strings vibrate and oscillate, that the string should return to its resting place when you've done your fancy string bends or some aggressive playing, and your guitar will stay in a far better state of tune. And that, for me, is what it's all about. So guys, lubing your nuts is very important, okay? If I just bring this up to the camera, let's have a quick look. You will see There we go. I'm just mucking about with the camera, guys. You should be able to see a top wrapped tailpiece at the back of the guitar there. And there's lots of stuff about this on the internet, is what the benefits of a top wrapped tailpiece. And you can see by top wrapping it, the actual break angle is much shallower than if the strings were to pass through the tailpiece in the normal fashion. So this guitar has been gigged probably about 3 or 4 times now with a tailpiece top wrapped. And have I noticed any difference? Well, no. I've rarely had any string breakages during gigs or indeed at home, and I think that's just down to simple maintenance. But what I would say is that the break angle between the actual saddles on the bridge and the tailpiece is not as harsh now. I think I've reduced the risk even further. It feels comfortable under the hand. Joe Bonamassa does this. Bernie Marsden's Les Paul, his famous 59 burst, came back to him from Joe Bonamassa with a top wrap. Bernie Marsden confirmed basically that he'll probably revert it back to its normal routing of the strings in due course. For me, I thought it's just a good example of just trying something out, just seeing if there are any tonal benefits. And to be honest, I can't tell the difference. And I might revert back to normal routing of my strings in the next few weeks. I really don't know. Okay, so we're in the business of buying tuning stability in this edition of Gigs and Guitars. Now, if you've got, say for example, like the Les Paul I've just showed you there, where you've not got, say for example, the lock-in tuner facilities, but if you've got like regular tuners on a Les Paul, or any other guitar, then you might want to adopt this technique, which I'm going to show you now. What we're going to do now, we're going to lock this string onto the tuning post, and all we're going to do is basically make sure that we've got several tuning posts worth of length on the end of the string as it passes through the tuning post you want to use. So put that through there, so about a span of that, a little bit longer. Let's go for there, stick a bit of a turn on, so we get a little bit of an angle on the string. I'm going to try and do this so you can see it. So I'm just going to keep that over there. All I'm going to do is take that back round, feed that back under that string. Let's pull that tight, like that. Pull it over the top as though you're putting a bit of a knot in it. There we go. And then all we're going to do, put some pressure on this, and then we're going to rotate the thumb screw. Stick a few turns on it. Strings tighten up nicely. Then all we need to do is bend that down. It's locked into place. Nice tidy ends. I can't bear to see guitar strings at length. There we go. Let's have a look at that. I'll bring the camera angle down. There you go, guys. I hope you found that very simple and straightforward. It is a secure way of locking your strings to the tuning post if you haven't got locking top nuts or a locking tuners on your guitars. So there we have it, ladies and gentlemen, just some basic care tips about strings in general. It's a topic we often neglect. If you like the video, please take the time to subscribe, like, share, and hit me in the bell icon, which is what it's all about. And there's always time in the day for a brew. Cracking.